When should you push and when should you hold where you're at? In this video, I'm breaking down several fights and going into the tactics around how to push fights in Apex. These days, every team you go up against probably feels extremely coordinated. That can mold you into thinking of what your enemies are anticipating, what you're trying to do to them, and vice versa. Now there's idea and then there's execution. It's no different than anything else really. If you have the right idea and fail to execute, well, that's gonna suck. But on the contrary, if you have the wrong idea but still wind up executing, well, you probably got a little lucky. So my goal is to make sure you have the right idea and the right execution. Let's get into it. Now in this first clip, we're talking about how to clutch up with randoms. I've solo queued a lot in season 18 and it's been extremely difficult, I'm not gonna lie. But in this game, there was some level of communication going on between me and my teammates, and although we hadn't had too many fights, things were going fairly smooth. We were going up against the last squad and they were holding us out from some pretty oppressive high ground. We all decided to retreat and get to a better vantage point. I quickly see that my teammate Octane is getting pushed and I call that out over the mic. I see his health bar go down, so I queue in and look to provide some presence. I take some shots in the back and I got shot by this Wraith here, but I anticipate that she's gonna push looking for the Octane. So we down her and then my Pathfinder goes down. Unfortunately, this Bloodhound, who I knew was the second closest enemy to myself and my other teammate, starts to go underneath me and he breaks my line of sight. I assumed the third player was gonna be further back somewhere northwest. So I had a decision to make. Do I drop down and challenge this guy, or do I keep my high ground? In an ideal situation, I would keep my high ground, but I saw that my Octane teammate just ran down low here and I saw his health bar still low. So I figured I have to help him with this guy, even though it's going to put me in a vulnerable spot to their third player. But if Octane loses this 1v1 to the Bloodhound, then we're all screwed. Now, as I drop down, I miss a shot, but I finally connect and he was low. Now it's a 1v1, me versus their last player. I go for the res because I can't see the third player and I figured it'd at least bait them. Once I see the Horizon Q, I damn well know that there's going to be a Horizon ult. So I use my Vantage bat, which I made sure to recall right around the time I resed Octane. I got out of her black hole and I get to a spot where I can still get some shots on her, and what do you know? We clutch up and get the win. The keys in this fight were reacting to what my teammates were doing. Now, a lot of the times this will get you killed. So it's a constant balance. It's an ebb and a flow of protecting your life, but still being there in those moments where you can team fire the enemy. I'm heavily aware of where my teammates are and if we can just team fire someone, even if that means that my teammate's getting shot in the back and I get to shoot the enemy who's shooting him. It doesn't necessarily have to be us two teammates being coordinated shooting at the same target, but I need to be in a similar area or have a very similar line of sight on the target to play off any present damage or previous damage to make my life and the team's life that much easier. Now I know some of you guys are thinking, well, that was a one-time deal where you had some good teammates. Well, in this example, I have no teammates. These guys landed estates. They died right off rip, shocker, and I had to retreat to find a weapon because it was super hot and there were no weapons around. I returned back to estates because I figured, hey, what the heck? I might as well try to get involved. I finally have some weapons and I knew that the team was close to me. So I used my ballistic ult, find a quick armor swap, and I'm anticipating one player pushing me because they're all probably not going to push at the same exact time from the same spot, although that has happened a lot in season 18. So I'm trying to catch a player, hopefully walking up the stairs so that they aren't behind any piece of cover. And luckily I find the Octane. I get some good shots with the wingman on him and my first reaction is to go up. The further up I go, the more space I've created away from my enemy. I start playing the door and start healing. Remember, this process is a mandatory component to 1v3. You need to create some space away from the crime scene and you need to start healing as soon as you can. However, I know that the second guy is going to push, and the fact is I could hear him. So what I'm looking to do, despite me not being fully healed up, is catch him in the open up the stairs, kind of similar to what I did to the Octane. And boom, I find Revenant in his ult. Takes a lot of shots to kill him because that ult is very strong, and I go right back to my safe spot and start healing. Now, their third player has a decision to make. Will they res, bait me out of my good positioning, or will he panic and come push me and take the last 1v1? Now, I'm hoping he does that move as opposed to go for the res, but I have to wait and see. But I'm still making use of my time by healing. It's a ballistic. I can hear that he's in his ult and I can hear that he's approaching. The door was already broken, so it only takes one kick and my ult wears away right when he shows up. He gets so close to me that it makes it kind of awkward to spray him. So I hit him once with the wingman and I start spraying with the R9, and somehow he was already kind of low. I think he was the guy I shot at the very beginning of the fight and he must have never healed or something. Regardless, that's how you 1v3, create space, be a student of the map, and really look for those quick opportunities where you can find some little bits of isolation. And guys, I know it's not possible in every single fight, but you won't know if it's possible if you don't put yourself in the best spot in order to see if it is. That's the idea and the execution coming together. Before I move on to the next fight, if you guys haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It would mean a lot, and we're on the way to 150,000 subscribers. So thanks for doing so. All right, now I don't want to show you only fights that we won. I want to talk about a frustrating fight that I experienced while solo queuing where things didn't go my way. My teammate and I were rotating back from labs to capacitor because our Revenant had started running into another team. I pull my Vantage ult out and I look to provide some covering fire. Now I realize where Revenant is, and I've fought here many times before. If Revenant is going to get to us, I need to put down as much suppressive fire as I can facing to the west and potentially to the north as well. He needs to get into this garage, or we need to get a knock and push out of the garage. But him being on the outer right side makes it virtually impossible for us to do too much if somebody has already crossed from the west to the north or the east, especially if he loses that 1v1 or that engagement. So hitting the Wraith for 70, we create some space. Somebody else starts firing at us and we are waiting away. I call an evac tower down to, I don't know, create some sort of bait, but it didn't work. There was a guy hiding behind one of the AC units, so I have to back up further, use my one shield battery. I could have slow healed, but I decided no, I'm not going to do that here. I medkit as well, and I'm hoping this time where the fight is sort of stalled, Revenant tries to get to us. He does not until he finally uses his tactical 2, and now we've kind of reset the fight. I've got Wraith low on flesh, and then I get the knock. It's 3v2, and if I pause for just a sec, everybody was pretty healthy until Maggie loses a good amount of her shield and HP. But we're still up on this fight. We just don't have to throw. I hit Revenant for 50, and he's cracked, so he's got to be somewhat low on health because he had blue armor. Now, I see where he is behind it. I get on the mic and I say, cue this if you have it, talking to the Maggie. She cues it just a second too late, or maybe I say it too late, either one. Revenant decides to run out on this guy in his ult. I lose line of sight for a second. By the time I do have line of sight, Revenant loses the 1v1. This whole time, I knew the third player was to my right outside of this garage. So if I swing out too far wide here, the guy on the right will shoot me in the back for free. I am the healthier one out of Maggie and myself, so I can't do anything like that. I'm hoping the Revenant peaks, but he doesn't. The Pathfinder has caused so much havoc from his right side angle, and he downs my Maggie. So now I'm in a 1v2 scenario, and I'm already pretty frustrated that the fight went from us being up in a 3v2 to now being a 1v2. That is not a good situation, but it often happens with randoms, as I'm sure you know. So the Pathfinder does some slinky move and gets over to the left. I bait the res. I do not hear him. I want you guys to know I didn't hear him, and he slide jumps out, and I have to take this 1v1. Now, if some sort of energy gun gets me to 1 HP, I know the Revenant's going to turn the corner. I probably should have played the knockdown longer, but I lose the fight. You know what I mean? I lose the fight, and it's really, really frustrating. And honestly, if I hear the Pathfinder and I'm in a better spot behind some piece of cover, I probably don't take so much damage in this 1v1. I could have played the teammates knockdown a bit better, but with randoms, I don't trust them a heck of a lot to know to leave the knockdown up all the time. So sometimes I don't bank on just playing it. Let's rewind for a second where there's one thing I could have done differently, but I'll explain to you guys why I didn't. When the Revenant was cracked and behind the AC unit, I didn't Vantage Q on him. And the reason I didn't Vantage Q on him is because I would have pushed with Revenant if I knew he was pushing, but I didn't know he was going to push. This is the problem with solo queuing. You can't coordinate a heck of a lot because you can't be a mind reader, right? So I knew that if I pushed out to the left, the guy on the right would shoot me. And if the guy on the left shoots me, I'm getting team fired and I'm potentially getting focused. And all of a sudden, the player I have the most control over, which is myself, I've just taken out of the fight trying to do too much. So although I was a bit passive here, I was waiting for Maggie to heal, and I was hoping that Maggie could have drilled the Revenant and I would have just ADS'd on the AC unit with my sniper, made him move away from his cover, potentially get a knock or get him even lower, then decide to Q on him because I know it'd be a quicker kill than whatever would have happened before, because by the time I would have got to him, he would have popped a bat. But let's talk about the last fight. So far we've covered solo win with randoms, solo 1v3 without any teammates, and a loss with randoms in a fight we objectively should have won. In this one, we're going to look at a quick third party once again with randoms while solo queuing. We fly out of Bonsai Plaza and into, I don't know, kind of the middle of Olympus. I knew a team was still back in Bonsai, but we did have to kind of rotate, and I hear the car pull up right next to me. So I have some high ground. I start shooting it a little bit, but they're all kind of looking at me, and I know my teammates were further away from me. So I have to keep some high ground until I screw up and drop, because I knew the third player had climbed up in my blind spot and had taken the ground that I was on. So if I continued to shoot down, I feared I would get shot in the back. So I drop down, try to get a knock, and then I realize I got to Ash portal out of here. Hopefully my teammates take some attention. It was a last-ditch effort. I start playing this pole as the littlest bit of cover that's possible, and they start providing some presence, which was perfect because I did some good damage, and then I keep shooting because I'm psycho and I'm ego challenging it, and I noticed that their attention really isn't on me. So anyways, we get that squad wipe. Then they ping some enemies, and I'm not really completely sure if they mean what they're pinging, but I bank on it once they do it again, and then I get to a safer vantage point. However, I'm significantly further away from my teammates, so now I got to figure out a way to cross in the open without taking a ton of damage as I don't have my Ash ult. Once I see Wraith's health go way down, I'm like, I got to get in there quick. So I throw a tactical, I throw a bad arc star, and I start to push up. Wraith is phasing out, Octane goes down, I catch Revenant, luckily down him. It was somewhat low, which was helpful. I see the guy on my left, he's low, so I crack him, and then I can hear the res going off. So I try not to swing too wide, I reload behind some cover, down the Wraith. I know Revenant's going to be low because he's the one who got rezzed, and then the last guy's challenging me. All of that time that went on bought Wraith time to heal and come back in. Now, luckily she was smart and came to provide some presence so she could team fire the last guy with me. And this wasn't really anything I did. I didn't output like a huge amount of damage, but I showed up just at the right time, and my teammates did a great job of providing enough damage on them. And I realized during this game, like, yeah, you know, with the SBMM, you need some good players on your team, or else like you're just gonna lose. Like, you might win a fight or two, but the competition is so freaking good that if your teammates are not capable, and trust me, I've had plenty of games this season. I mean, hundreds of games. That's why I only picked like 4 or 5 guys, right? But there's been so many games where randoms just don't do enough. But this was a good example of just a good dance of in and out that my teammates and I did 2 different times with 2 teams back to back. So if you could just be there once again to provide that presence and not squander any opportunity when the time is of the essence, when damage has been applied to enemies, you can put yourself in the best situations to clean up fights or start off the fight if your teammate's going to do the cleaning up role. Preserve your life, look for good damage opportunities, play cover, and show up. If you found this video helpful, then you're going to want to check out my 1 hour of the best Apex Legends tips and tricks video. I covered it all right here. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.